and welcome to the Five Pillars of Publishing panel. I'm here with Kevin McLaughlin, who is going to tell us all about the Five Pillars of Publishing. How are you doing this morning, Kevin?
Pretty well, thank you. How's it going for you?
Going pretty well.
I hope everyone's having a great time at the convention, and I hope you can all pick up at least one or two good tips from this session. The indie publishing world can be wildly confusing. I feel sometimes like I'm trying to juggle 200 balls at the same time. And so my concept behind the five pillars here is the idea that what if you could drill down, what if you could narrow down to just 5 key things that you had to work on, and everything else is secondary, but those 5 key things are what makes the difference for most writers between success or failure of your books. So success at writing and publishing is easy, but it's also hard because there's just so much we have to do, and we want to be able to make our books, do better. This is not the only way that a writer can achieve success. I've seen people who violated every principle that I'm going to talk about today and still done really, really well. But those tend to be outliers. Those tend to be exceptions to the rule. So by focusing on these 5 different aspects, you can make a lot of movement. Quickly about me, I'm a multiple USA Today best-selling author of science fiction and fantasy. I've got 70-something books out, and I've been doing this full-time for a few years. I will hit my 10th anniversary of publishing my first book in August next year. And these days I do stuff either self-published, indie-published, or traditionally through LNBPN, and I'm looking into some other partnerships with other publishers next year. So I kind of mix it up, and I've been doing this for a little while, so I've seen a lot of people come and go. And these are some patterns. What we're going to talk about today are some patterns that I've discovered among who has stuck with it and managed to achieve success and who has not. So let's get started. The first pillar of publishing is storytelling. As I put in the note there, this pillar is key. If our storytelling isn't good enough for the readers, nothing else we do matters. Even if we somehow manage to market a book incredibly well, package it beautifully, and get a whole lot of people buying that first novel, nobody's going to buy the second one.
Yeah.
We're done at that point. We've lost all of those readers because our storytelling wasn't good enough. The storytelling isn't about grammar or spelling. Although those help. It's not about purple prose. It's not about having super flowery descriptions. We're not trying to, generally speaking, win Pulitzers or Booker Awards with our books, although some people are, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. Storytelling is about taking readers on a journey and capturing their minds. It's about bringing them into the story. It's about immersion. It's about emotion. And this is something that's very difficult to teach. It is not that hard to learn because the way we usually learn story is by absorbing story. I read constantly. I'm reading at least a book a week, usually more. And I also watch a lot of TV. I look for good, fun TV of genres that I like. I'm really partial to some of the CW superhero stuff. We're watching Star Trek Discovery right now, which I think the new season has been doing great. But find stuff that you like, whatever it might be. And because the stuff that you like is going to be the sort of writing style that you're going to want to create. The stuff that we tend to enjoy writing and the stuff that we tend to enjoy absorbing as content destination tend to be really, really similar. So find the stuff that you love and then study it, break it down, learn from it. Look at the people who are doing well. Look at the shows or the movies or the books that are doing really well and that are actually reaching readers and achieving that sort of emotional resonance, and study it. Look at what they've done. All right.
You're getting a lot of agreement in the chat
I'm
channel.
seeing that. Why just good, though? I mean, don't we aspire to become great writers? Everyone wants to be the next Shakespeare, right? Well, yes and no. I mean, I love learning to write better, and I'm constantly working on improving my craft. My goal with each new book, and I write a lot of books, is to make each one better than the previous one. But I aim for good enough. I don't aim for great, because there's a tendency among a lot of writers to, if you aim for great, to just kind of keep on working at it forever and to never feel like it's quite good enough, because after all, our prose is not as good as insert name of whoever our favorite writer is here. So therefore it's not ready for publication. And that kind of thing can stall us out. And most of the time, writers don't improve at their writing craft by going over already written stuff. We improve by absorbing other people's good work and by practicing what we've learned from absorbing that work by creating new work of our own.
I got stuck in that trap for a long time.
It's easy to do, because you want to make the best possible thing you can, and that's a natural inclination, and it's totally understandable. And in the long run, I think it's a great goal. I want to become as good a writer as I possibly can, but the way I achieve that is by continuing to practice a lot.
Yes, I got stuck in the trap of trying to fix a book over and over again, and it just got so muddled. I finally had to scrap the whole thing because it had been so over edited, because I wanted to be as good as you said, insert name, instead of just working on making myself better and concentrating on my own skill, my own craft. And I'm finally out of that trap and moving forward, but I wish I'd heard that 5 years ago.
What we sometimes forget is that our favorite writer usually didn't start off as good as they were when they became our favorite writer. They could practice too. They had to get to where they are. Now, everyone's journey to become a good and then a great writer is different. There's a few people out there who wrote one book ever, and everybody read it and everybody loved it, which is terrific, and I think that's wonderful. But that's not the norm. That's the exception. The norm is to just practice, and each book try and incrementally improve, trying to incrementally get better.
It's a craft, and like you said, it takes practice, and it's something that we will continue practicing for the rest of our career.
Mm-hmm. And I see somebody said it's hard to tell people this. It can be, because it's not hard to tell a writer, hey, your cover isn't really on target, or have you been marketing this book enough? It's really, really hard to tell someone, by the way, your craft needs work. Nobody's going to read this in the shape that it's in right now. That's hard.
Yes.
So instead of going out there and telling other people that, what I'm suggesting we do as writers is to take a good look at ourselves and work at this storytelling aspect of things. Work at falling in love with the characters, because if you don't fall in love with the characters, generally speaking, the readers aren't going to either. We want to make the characters as real as we can. We want to make them people that either our readers aspire to be, or can imagine themselves being, or don't want to have anything to do with, depending on what kind of character it is. We want to get readers to turn the page. That's so critical. I cannot tell you how many books I've put down because I read the first chapter and I'm like, I don't see the protagonist on this page, and I don't really understand what's happening. And so I'm going to go find the book now, because I don't have time for that, really. So the first page is probably the most crucial page in the entire book. The first page sells that book. The last chapter sells the next book, because you have to have a good ending too. But that first chapter, that first page, those are key sales factors for the book, because the reader is going to take a look at that first page and the first chapter. And if you have not hooked them, if you haven't got them turning the pages, you've lost them. And of course, I already addressed getting better. We want to always get better.
Yeah.
Practice. That's the only way that we can continuously and consistently improve. Somebody asked, I see the StreamYard shots here, but somebody asked, don't we have a story we're all waiting to tell until we're good enough to write it? I actually wrote one once. My second novel, I think. I wrote it, and it was terrible, and I threw it in a trunk for a couple of years, and then I rewrote it from scratch, and the second version of it was much better. I was head hopping. I was head hopping first person. I was bopping back and forth, alternating chapters between two first person perspectives, and I simply didn't have the skill for it at the time. You too.
I did that. The book that I was talking about that I scrapped was written in first person, a big cast of first person, and I got the advice from a dear friend who's an author. She was like, this is so over edited and you just need to archive it and rewrite it from scratch. And I did, and it was even better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally got convinced that just such a big cast in first person, even though I do first person well, it was too many first persons. So I converted it to third person. So, but yeah, did that.
Sometimes that can be the right answer. In my case, I actually stuck with the first person, but I'd done enough additional writing between when I wrote it the first time and when I wrote it the second time that eventually became a court of honor. And I don't know exactly how many copies it's moved, 20 or 30,000, I think, at this point, somewhere in that range.
It's impressive.
Yeah, it did great because I took the time with it, because I set it aside. I don't think it would have done anywhere near as good if I just tossed it out there the way it was originally. So keep working at your craft and you really will improve. The second pillar of publishing is your cover. Now, in order to understand these next couple of pillars, we're going to briefly touch on something called AIDA. A-I-D-A. It's a marketing acronym. It stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. The first thing we want to do with a reader is grab their attention. That's what the cover is for. The second thing we want to do is we want to build their interest. We'll get into that in a minute. Then we build the desire to buy the book, that's actually the storytelling. That's your first chapter. When they sample the first chapter, when they read this, download the sample, or when they borrow in KU or whatever it is they're doing, you have to really get their desire to read the rest of the book. So by the time they've reached the end of that sample, they're like, wait, what? I click buy. And that's the action that we want them to do. We want them to click buy or click read now. So book covers are crucial for that first aspect, that grab their attention. They're more than pretty art. The purpose of the cover is to convey the story idea and the story's topic or subgenre or even sub-genre. It is not enough to throw a pretty piece of art up on your book. That is insufficient in today's market for most of the time. What we want is a book cover that will sell the book. We want essentially a movie poster for our book. If you go and look at movie posters, go hop online or whatever. I know there's not a lot releasing right now, but go look at movie posters. And if you look at a couple dozen movie posters, you can usually tell within 2 seconds of looking at the image exactly what that movie is about. You can tell if it's, like Star Wars films look like Star Wars films. There's no doubt in anybody's mind. You could change all of the faces and you would still know, oh, this is space opera like Star Wars, because the movie posters are iconic. And in fact, a lot of other people have done that. A lot of movie makers have gone and created Star Wars-like posters because their movies were similar to Star Wars and they wanted to attract that audience. Horror movies are always very, very visible. And in fact, you can tell the difference just by looking at the movie poster, whether it's a monster horror movie or say murderer slasher horror movie. You can tell very quickly. Romantic comedies are easy to spot. They have certain tropes. They have certain things about them that that we can just pick out. We've gotten so good at telling which of these things are which that it's automatic. Book covers are the same way. If you go and look in your genre, and I would recommend drilling down to as much as you possibly can to your subgenre or your sub-subgenre, what do science fiction lit RPG covers look like right now? Have they changed from 6 months ago? Because sometimes these things change over time. There was a point back in the 90s where an author I know of got really upset with his publisher because the publisher kept putting these guys with, science fiction writer, guys with like big powered armor and huge assault rifles on the covers of his books. And he's like, these are fleet battles. There's literally no powered armor and no space marine type stuff at all in any of these books anywhere. The publisher's answer was that's what military science fiction covers had. The powered armor guy with the gun on the cover was the symbol of military SF at the time. So that's not the case anymore. We are starting to see that actually make a comeback a little bit right now. There's been some indies over the last couple of years who've done a really good job with doing like science fiction armor, rifle and a guy on the cover. But most of the time, military science fiction right now is 2 or more ships shooting at each other in space. It's one of the key markers for that. I think we're starting to see some division between the space fleet and the space marine subgenres of military science fiction, which is why I said it's important to drill down to your sub genre. Study the competition. Look at the people who are like you. Look at the folks who are doing well, who are like you. What do they have in common? Don't look at any one cover and say, oh, I've got to be like that one because they're number one in the store right now, because they might not be number one in the store next week. And they might have just gotten a BookBub or done a major push ad, or they might be an outlier for some entirely different reason. Instead, look at as many covers that are similar to your book as possible and look for the commonalities between them. Those are the things usually that readers are looking for when they're trying to find their next book in your sub-genre. The cover does not need to tell part of the story. It doesn't have to be like the guy, like the science fiction writer who had the space armor on his covers when there was none in the book. The cover might tell, might be like an action scene from an exciting part of the story, but it might not be. It might not be in the story at all. It might just be emblematic. It might just be an emblem of what the story is to the reader, because that's what a cover is. A cover is our way of telling the reader this is what it's going to be about. It's a promise you're making to your readers of this is what I'm going to be giving you. This is what you're going to be receiving when you read this. We have a third pillar. The third pillar is the sales description, and this is where we build the second part of AIDA, which is interest. We've gotten somebody to click on the sales page because our cover grabbed their attention. Now we have to get them through to the next level, which is, now we have to get them past that sales page and get them to actually click on the book, at least to download the sample. The sales description is crucial for this. Descriptions are those little bits of book on the back cover, or they're the block of text talking about what the book's about on the sales page, and they are not a synopsis. This is one of the biggest mistakes that writers make, because writers, especially old guard writers who have done a ton of submissions to different traditional publishers and agents and all that fun stuff, know that we're supposed to write a synopsis. We sit down and we write our little synopsis, we ship it off to the agent and or the publisher, and we hope that they'll buy the book. This is not how it works when we're doing the publishing, though. Don't write a plot outline. Those tend to come out as very dry. They tend to make the reader respond by saying, well, now I know what happened, so why am I considering buying this book anymore, there's no point. Book descriptions are not a synopsis. They're sales copy, and they should be written using good copywriting skills. Brian Meeks is famous for sitting down and actually studying copywriting intensely, reading a whole bunch of books on the subject in order to make his descriptions better. And he's done a wonderful job teaching that. I actually recommend his book on the subject as well. Good stuff. But if you're trying to do it yourself on your own, starting with some classes or web sessions or books about how to write good sales copy is not a bad way to go, because the sales copy that we're writing for our books is not that different from the sales copy that people are using for anything else.
Yeah.
You have to build the viewers, readers' attention, and you have to build emotional resonance. And that means you need to build a connection between you and the person who's reading the copy. You have to build some sort of an emotional response. People don't tend to buy things because the features sound cool. Most of the time, they will spend money based on their emotional response to something. So it's really important that we trigger some sort of an emotion. Even
Ellie
if
is agreeing with you. She's saying that's one of the biggest things for her when choosing a book.
Yeah, I think so too. If the cover grabs me, I'll click the link. But if the description doesn't grab me too, I'm never going to download the sample. And that's the next step. You've got to get them to check out that first chapter where then your storytelling comes online. And if that's not on, then they're going to turn the book back in. We need to be able to build some sort of an emotional connection between ourselves and the reader, or between our characters and the reader, or between the world, the fascinating, interesting world that we've created, and the reader. We need to build that emotional connection. The fourth pillar, everyone's favorite part of publishing. Promotion. Everything about AIDA is about building conversion rates, getting the attention, getting the interest, building the desire to make the purchase, and then taking the action to purchase. But in order to get conversions in the first place, in order to turn people from a random person on the street to avid reader of all of our stuff, we need to get eyes on the sales page in the first place. And promotion is anything, literally anything we do that accomplishes that. So if you're putting pre-printed Post-it notes with a link to your book on the windshield of every car in the city, don't do that. But that would count as promotion. Talking about your book at Thanksgiving dinner, probably don't do that either, is also a form of promotion, because you might get some people to pick up a copy. We need to send readers to the sales page. Any means we use to accomplish that is good. Again, use some common sense there. Like I said, there's some things that are probably wise and not wise to do in terms of promotion. Targeted promotions are best. The things that focus on bringing qualified leads to the sales page. And a qualified lead is someone who we already know is into our stuff. So when I run a Facebook ad and I target a bunch of other science fiction authors, then I know that the people who like them probably like science fiction and are in my market. They're in the market for books like the ones that I write. The more targeted you can make it a promotion, the higher the conversion will tend to be. The less targeted you make it, the more eyeballs you get. So we're looking for a balancing point, and different types of promotion work differently. So for some things, it might be great to just do a big wide spread and send a big blast to 1 million people. For other people, for other types of promotion, or for other books, you might get way more bang for your buck by sending out an exceptionally targeted thing that only reaches 10,000 people, but they are your core market. They are the people that definitely like your kind of thing. Targeted methods include our email list, email swaps, focused advertisements. Email lists are crucial to our promotion efforts. I think that's probably the single most effective promotion tool I use for me. And email swaps are probably my second most important, and they're related because I wouldn't get as many good email swaps if I didn't have a big email list. So building that email list is really important. It'll let you not only reach your fans, but it'll also let you swap fans with other writers who are working in the same field as you. Focused advertisements are your third primary method of targeting, of targeted ads, targeted promotion. Our primary paid ad venues today are Facebook, AMS, and BookBub. And BookBub, I mean the pay-per-click or pay-per-million type ads. All of those are very effective. Different people have found them different levels of effective. The thing to remember as we're going through this is times change and new venues will open and old venues will suddenly become less good. I know that a lot of people found that Facebook declined greatly in value over the past month or so. So this is something to keep in mind, is that sometimes a venue will go up and sometimes a venue will drop down, and sometimes a new venue will pop up. I just heard about a writer who's doing super, super well doing TikTok stuff. And it's not like paid ads on TikTok. It's just putting up TikToks, which is really fascinating. I hadn't even really looked at that platform before, but now I am, and I'm keeping an eye on it because it's always worthwhile to see what's happening next.
It may be the next Facebook.
It might be. It certainly is a big group of potential readers. Now, paid promotion is all well and good, but free promotion is also valuable. Paid promotion almost always works better and faster, but we can get some movement by just putting in sweat equity if we can't afford big, huge Facebook ad spends. One of the best ways to do this is to build a following somewhere. YouTube channel, a Twitter presence, a Facebook group. I know some authors who have fan groups on Facebook who are doing a great job with it. Patreon. I know some people who are making a living from their books on Patreon alone, making a decent enough income every month that could be their sole living, which is great. I have a Patreon page. It's not there yet, but I'm learning and I'm trying to find out about these things because you never know when something is going to take off, and you never know what's going to work well next. Somebody said, wow. Oh, Ellie said, wow. Yeah, Patreon. I know a couple of writers who are making better than the U.S. median annual income from Patreon alone. And then they take their books and they put them online on Amazon and what have you afterwards. Kickstarter is another example. This is Kickstarter is free. Kickstarter is less promotion and more venue because it doesn't inherently promote your book itself all that much unless it's already doing well. So I've done 2 Kickstarters, both of them failed. So you can ask me any questions you've got about how to make a bad Kickstarter. I might do it again at some point since I've learned all of the ways to do it wrong now. The key thing is to remember that you are going to have to drive the traffic to that sales page, because that's essentially what it is it's just another sales page, just like the sales page on Amazon or anywhere else. You have to drive readers there, and then you have to sell them once they get there. Kickstarter, again, will kick in some of their own marketing acumen, but not until they actually see the project already doing really well. They're a lot like Amazon. They're owned by Amazon. They're a lot like Amazon in that manner because again, once you start selling on Amazon, then Amazon will tend to kick in some assistance and start sending out emails about your books to potential readers. But you have to jumpstart it first. Stand out. You have to stand out from the crowd. You have to offer something of value as well. It's not enough to just pop up on the screen. You have to either usually entertain somebody or inform somebody. There are other methods of reaching potential readers and building value to a community, but those are the 2 ways that seem to work best most of the time for writers. We can entertain people by talking about our stories. We can entertain people by making funny TikToks. Again, I've been watching this author do a great job with it. Blank on her name now, but it was really terrific watching the little the little 30-second things that she did, and it's working. So we can offer this value to our fans, to our potential fans, and then they slowly begin coming, arriving, gathering, chatting with one another, and if it's a Facebook group, and generally just being more aware of you, so that way when your next book does come out, they're like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. I know that person. They know us then. We built a rapport with them.
I think that's important. A lot of fans really enjoy the way that social media has made authors more accessible. And they're people. They're not just someone who wrote a book. They're someone we can interact with.
I absolutely agree. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things that social media in general has changed for writers, is we are no longer like this mystery person behind the scenes. Now we're here, we're present. We can, well, you're watching me on a screen right now, you know, but we can talk to our readers. We can get emails from them. We can tweet at them. They can direct message us on Facebook. You know, there's lots of ways they can reach out, and there's lots of ways that we can reach back. And these sorts of things all take up time. So, and time is money. Time is a cost. Don't ever forget that. That's why I put sweat equity on this slide, because it is still a cost. Every hour that I'm spending working a Facebook group is an hour I did not spend writing new words.
Yeah.
So everything has a cost there, but it's a cost that's sometimes easier for people to manage than $500 a month on Facebook ads. There are multiple ways of getting promotion done, and I just wanted to make sure I covered all of them. The fifth pillar is a tough one for a lot of people. And I originally wrote this as 4 pillars of productivity, and then I was like, no, actually there's a 5th. Productivity is the 5th pillar. Practice makes perfect. We improve at writing by writing. So the more we write, the better we will tend to become over time. I've said that before, and people have corrected me, and I completely agree with the correction, which is that it is not enough to simply practice a thing. You must practice a thing with a constant effort toward improvement in order to reliably improve at the thing. So if we're just jotting down words any old which way, and we're not actually working on our storytelling, and we're not consciously really working at improving, then that will not tend to impact our writing skill, our improvements in skill, as much as it would if we were focused on improving each book, making each one better than the last one, learning how to do new things on the side. All of that stuff is important. Again, these are really general rules because everybody's different, and there's going to be somebody out there who's like, oh yeah, I just stick my fingers on the keyboard and write, and I just keep on getting better every book. And that's fine. I'm talking in very general terms here. Every new book is another chance to win fans. The more books we have out, Dean Wesley Smith writes this wonderful little analogy where he's talking about our publishing and our writing as being a magic bakery. Yes, practice writing and not practice typing, exactly. So we've got this magic bakery where we bake a pie, and our book is a pie, and we put it out there on the shelf, and then we start selling slices of the pie. And the thing is that the pie never runs out of slices. And the slices that we do sell, like we license out audio rights to somebody for 5 years. And then after 5 years, that slice comes back, and we can sell it again to somebody else. This is great. So this magic bakery concept is something that we can keep in mind as we're going forward here. All of those books are there forever. The book I wrote and published back in 2011, August 2011, my very first time I was publishing something, self-publishing something. August 2011, I'm trying to think now, I still have that book up and available for readers right now. It's also actually been merged into a novel at this point. So it was a short story, and it's now been merged into the beginning of one of the other books in that series. So it's sort of still available, but the point is that the writing is still there. and the writing will always be there. For the rest of my life, that writing that I did way back then will still continue to attract new readers and make me income, which is terrific. We don't have to worry about the stuff going away. It doesn't. It's always going to be there for us.
Once it's out there, it's out there.
Right. And every new book helps us achieve a living income from our work. Michael Anderle famously said, wow, if I could have 20 books, each making X dollars a day, then I could make $50,000 a year. And this is good math. If you can have, it might take you 20 books to hit your target income. It might take you 50, it might take you 100, it might take you 2. But whatever it is, the more books we have out there selling, the more overall we will tend to do. So productivity is crucial for being able to make a living wage from our work. Not only are we putting out new books, which helps us get new readers and help market all of our old books, but we are also building that backlist, which we can then utilize to continue making money and pushing our careers forward as we go.
Mike had a good comment here. A book never going out of print is one of the greatest gifts of the digital revolution.
It absolutely is. I mean, it's an incredible gift, because for those of us who are going to write long term, it means that our readers can always go back. I have one series that is 15 books long. I have another one that's going on that. And, like in the old days, that would be over the course of 15 years or so. And by the time book 15 come out, good luck trying to find a copy of book 1, because you're just not going to, probably. And that means that each book tends to sell less than the book before it, a lot less usually, because only a certain percentage of the previous buyers find the next one. And you're not picking up new readers anymore because they can't find book 1. So now we have that entry point sitting there forever. So we can always point new readers at the beginning of the series, and however long we go along, however long the series ends up being, I think there's a couple out on Amazon that are over 100 books long now, which is incredible. Wow. However long we keep on writing that series, and even after that, we're going to continue being able to acquire new readers. There's a dark side to that, however, as well. And that's that every book being there forever is great for us. But every book being there forever also means that there's more books in the store every year than there were before. So that book that I published, a novel I published in 2012 might hit the USA Today bestseller list in 2016. Happened. And that book is then competing with people who just started in 2016. Well, is that fair? Fair or not, that's the way it is. Our books are competing for visibility with other writers. And that's okay. Because overall, there's a lot of room for authors. The people who this hurt the most, the people who this growing library of books that everyone can access in an instant hurt the most, are slower writers. It is harder to build up backlists when you're writing only 1 or 2 books a year. It is more difficult to get that long series going so that you can market it really well. These things take time. And the person who's able to write more books can more easily take advantage of this expanding, unlimited, eternal bookstore than the person who's writing fewer. This is why productivity, this is another reason why productivity is such a crucial aspect of publishing. Becoming prolific is probably beyond the scope of a short talk. However, I'm going to pass 1 million words this year for the first time.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks. I'm almost at 900,000 right now, so I'm not sure exactly how high I'm going to get. I'm sort of thinking I might do 1.2 million, but I'm almost certainly going to hit at least 1.1. I passed my best year ever in the middle of October, which is great. I had 2.5 months I could just take off at that point, right? No, I still got books I got to write. So you don't have to write 1 million words a year. This is something that I've been working on for a decade. I've been slowly increasing my word count every year for a decade. And this is not something you need to do tomorrow. So here's some quick tips about working to improve it if you would like to. Because I know a lot of people who are doing great on like 3, 4, 5, 6 books a year. It's not that hard to do. And it could sound a little overwhelming, but we'll get there. Write every day if possible. Every day you can, if not. This keeps the story focused in your mind and your brain working on it during non-writing hours. So a little bit more detail about this. Our brains are these complex networks of neurons. And the things that we think about the most are the things that our brain gets best at thinking about. You know, everybody's familiar probably with the concept of neuronal rewiring, or the way our brains will shift, plasticity, brain plasticity, the way our brains will shift over time. The more we focus on thinking about a certain thing, the better our brains get at doing that thing. Just the act of thinking about it means that we're telling those neurons, hey, this is really important, so you should pay extra attention to this and build stronger connections to it. One trick I did at one point was I actually had my writing app, I had my phone next to my bed when I went to sleep, and I would leave my writing app open on my phone. So when I reach over for the phone for my first morning pickup, just to see if there were any text messages or emails, instead, the very first thing I got was where I left off on writing a story last night. Well, I'm awake now. And all of a sudden, my brain is right back in the story where I had been before. So that's it. That's a cute trick. I actually don't do that anymore. I leave my phone out on my desk, and I just read myself to sleep on my Kindle at night. But different techniques will work differently for different people, and different techniques might be good for you at a particular moment and then not as good for you later, or vice versa.
I do something similar where I leave my work in progress open on my screen, so that the first thing I see when I open my computer is what the last thing that I wrote before I stopped.
It can be really great. And even on the days when you can't get any writing done, if you're sitting there and spending some time at least thinking about the story, thinking about what's going, oh, okay, I've got what's going to happen next. I know what's going to happen in that next chapter. Thinking about it still builds that neuronal rewiring. No, it is possible to become prolific. Writing 1 million words in a year is not difficult. It's just not. I don't know how many words each of you who are listening to this write per hour. For me, I write between 2,000 and 3,000 words an hour when I'm typing. Again, this is a decade of practice. I did not start off that fast. When I started off, I was more like 1,000 words an hour. But I write usually about 2,400 words, 2,500 words in an hour, and it's fairly clean copy, so it doesn't have a lot of typos and stuff in it. Try and learn dictation. Again, keep on learning new stuff. Keep on trying new things. About 750 in a moment for somebody. Might be 1,000 for somebody else. Might be 1,500. Wherever you are now, it's not necessarily where you're going to be in 5 years. This is something that you can practice and improve at, regardless of where you are at the moment. My typing speed is enough so that my maximum words per hour is about 4,500 words per hour typed. I'm not typing that fast. I'm not writing that fast when I'm typing. I'm not writing that fast when I'm dictating. So my stopping point for me is up here. It's transmitting, it's coming up with the story and then transmitting it via whatever medium I'm using. And those are the areas that I need to focus on if I want to continue improving in my speed. So that for me, I've analyzed, assessed where my weak spot is, and now I'm working on improving that thing. But 1 million words a year is not difficult. It's a lot of work. If you're writing 1,000 words an hour, it's 1,000 hours of work. I did the math right? Yes. And 1,000 hours of work divided by 50 weeks a year, 2 weeks vacation, is 20 hours a week. So now you're writing 20 hours a week, and you've got your million words. That's it. 100,000 word finished novel takes me about 300 hours, and that's that's great. There's no wrong answer. I want to be really super clear about that. There's no wrong answer to how fast I write. There's no wrong answer to how many hours it takes me to finish a work. There's only, this is where I am now. And then we can look at those numbers and we can assess, okay, so what's stopping me from doing this differently? Nothing. Practice. Trying new things. Trying different techniques. I'm constantly experimenting with something new. I'm playing with Plotter right now, which is a piece of software for story plotting. Even though I usually pants novels, I'm playing with Plotter because everything I do that is involved with story makes me better at story.
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard to learn how to dictate, and it's not natural for me. It feels very awkward for me, and I even.
You've muted yourself accidentally?
There we go. Better. I bought this cool little mouth microphone. It's not on right now, but I bought this cute little mouth microphone that makes it a bit easier to dictate while there's people around. The point is to try different things and continue working on improving whatever it is that you're doing. Wherever you're at, you can go to the next level. Believe that, know it, because it's easy to look at a number like 1 million words and be like, that's impossible. I can't do that. Well, you can. You absolutely can. Just like I can go run a marathon. I just can't do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll break.
Well, Kevin, we are getting close to our wrap point. Could you tell us where we can find your works?
Yes. Give me 1 second here. To conclude, all right. Again, this isn't the only road, it's a good road. Remember AIDA, attention, interest, desire, and action. Get eyes on the sales page to convert them. Write well, write lots. And I've never seen someone master these 5 pillars and fail to achieve writing success. So while this is not the only road to go, this is a very strong road. And if you want to, you can get these slides by going to Genius/Pillars. I've got it up on Book Funnel right now, actually, if you want to grab the slides. Where you can find me, I am in KU for most of my books. I've got Steel Dragon series out from LMVPN and a whole bunch of stuff up on Amazon of my own. I write both science fiction and fantasy, mostly urban fantasy for the fantasy. And I kind of mix it up between military science fiction, space opera for my SF. I also have a couple books out there for writers. I'm doing a talk on Heinlein's Rules for Writers, which I wrote the book on, tomorrow. And I have a book in process for this topic as well, but it's not done yet. This one's actually taking a lot of work because I'm putting an enormous amount of thought into each of the chapters.
I will be definitely buying that one.
Cool. Just look for the writing books with the dragons, the cartoon dragons on the covers. Those are me.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? I see. Thank you.
I think
questions.
Yeah, I think we've been doing a pretty good job at answering and responding along the way. It was awesome to get to spend this last hour with you, Kevin. I've learned so much.
Well, I'm glad to be here. And I hope that everybody took away some good lessons from this. Just go, keep writing, and have fun with it too. Have fun.
It's a job, but it should be fun.
It's a job, but it should be fun. If we're not having fun with this stuff, go do something else, because this is a good job for people who really love it.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and hearing about Heinlein's Rules for Writing.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Take care, everybody.
Bye.